Detroit is different. Detroit is different. I can feel it. Detroit is different.
Welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast studios. I've been doing this for a little bit. A little bit means Lord knows what quantity of time in the African-American vernacular of colloquialisms. But in this reference, I'm talking about years and years, decade plus right now, right? And in my archives, there are a few interviews that end up botched, right? And I know people are thinking like, what happened to that? I don't know. You know, between drives and stuff getting corrupted, destructed, but even more reasons to come on back in. And this brother in studio now is for show. When you think about the whole title of this show, network, movement, Detroit is Different, he personifies that with the name alone, right? Piranhahead, how you doing?
What up, dog?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Happy
sir.
313 day, baby.
313 day.
Happy 313 day. This is us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. When you picked the scheduling, you was like, you doing something? I'm like, man, I'm probably recording and editing like usual, but
Oh man, come
it
on.
ain't a better day to have you in studio than March 13th.
Man, look at here. I'm grateful, and I'm thankful and grateful, as my sister Aisha Ellis always say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, this is a blessing to be here with you, man. And you know, I mean, I love what you do. I love the way you bring our community forward. It's like, for real, it's like very important to us, man. I love you, brother.
Respect, all love, same way, brother. I mean, when I think of creativity and really just knowing sound,
Oh man,
I uplift your, I wave the flag your way all the time. I don't even know if people respect it because, like, back in the day, like right now, this is the microphone people know me on, but rapping is actually what led me into this.
Right.
And then when it came to sound mastering, knowing it, sculpting it, mixing it,
man,
you're one of the, you're a master craftsman.
man, I'm grateful, man. Thank you so much. I cannot lie. You know, the records that we listened to coming up,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it was important. You know, that we find a way that expresses ourselves fully, and sound is a big important part of that. Also, you know, the craftsmanship of the music, the musicianship, and you know, I've been working with others and everything. I was listening to Donny Hathaway yesterday.
What song?
Lord Help Me.
Mm-hmm.
And it moved me. You know what I mean? Because he was, you know, the subject matter was beautiful. And I was listening to that, the way the song was crafted and everything. So just the fact that we, as a people, we have something to express. And then the way we have to express it. And the mediums through which we have to express it. So, you know, it's a beautiful thing, man.
Definitely, brother. Definitely. I can't uplift it more. So with that, we're going to jump right on in Detroit is Different style. You and your people, how deep are y'all connected to this city? So how many generations back does your family make its way to Detroit?
Well, I only know of, let me see. That was just one generation.
Okay.
Because it was Muskegon first.
Okay.
Because they went from Mississippi to Muskegon, but then before that, it was pretty much all Mississippi.
Where at Mississippi?
Let me see. I gotta go back and look because I'm not exactly sure. Like, but it mostly was Waynesboro before, like, let me see, around late 1800s, 1900s. It was like Waynesboro, Hattiesburg, and all that. For that, I'm sure it was like deeper, the Delta and everything like that. I know it was. I mean, and then there was some of that, you know, tampering. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of our, a lot of that, from moving from Mississippi, really, be honest, was my grandfather. Now we're gonna get her and our kids up out of here because they looking, they peeping, they.
So, with this connection,
Yes, sir.
and that being made, Muskegon. What's going on in Muskegon?
Right now, nothing. Ain't nothing there now. I wish the guy I would be there right now if that was the case, man.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, happy birthday, Grandma.
Mm.
Yeah, I would be there right now.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It would be that. Yeah, because dang.
They made their way up there.
They did.
Working where?
Yeah. Campbell Wine Cannon.
Mm-hmm.
There was a foundry up there.
Okay.
And all that type of stuff. I mean, my grandmother was up there. All of my family was.
Mm.
Like everybody was up in Muskegon. And Muskegon, believe it, Muskegon Heights is was a really cool little black enclave.
Okay.
You know what I mean? A lot of the things that I, experienced up there was just, shoveling snow and, got a whooping or two.
Yeah.
But, grandma did show me how to, dig in the dirt and, plant some greens or, pick some peas, make sure that we knew how to eat, and ate off the land.
Mm.
You know what I mean? All that, had strawberry preserves and made her own wine. Like she didn't need nobody.
Okay. I love it.
Mm.
So to Detroit, when do you come to Detroit and what neighborhood?
Well, okay. Well, it's a little strange, a little setup. My mother's first marriage, gave her 5 kids.
Mm.
My father's first or second marriage gave him 3.
Y'all was like the Brady Bunch for real.
The Brady Bunch for real. And then when they came together, and then, they figured out that, they had already made kids before, but they hadn't perfected the art until September the 20th, 1972.
And I'm wondering, what is that?
And that day when I got here, they found out like this is exactly how a human being is supposed to be.
Oh man, I know your brothers and sisters are looking at this guy and laughing.
Look at here, and I'm the baby, right? So they are, the one who's right before me is 10 years older than me. So wherever they went, I had to go.
Okay.
When they was, doing the Earl Flynn and all of that stuff, I was right there with them. East side, on St. Clair between Jefferson and Kercheval. So it was 1562 St. Clair. Like this is 1652 Clements.
Wow.
That's the reason why it's always special when I come over here and kick it with y'all.
That's deep. That's deep.
Yeah. The house ain't there no more thanks to but you know what I mean? And we gave up the land a long time ago. And I try to urge Black Detroiters all the time. Don't give up what you got, because, they ain't gonna give you nothing better.
All right. So your parents, what do they do?
My father was a factory worker.
Okay.
He worked for Ford Motor Company. Ford Motor Company put bacon and eggs on our table.
Okay.
And my mother did hair. She did what do you call it? She did hair, interior decorating, and everything.
Okay.
Until she decided, looked up and looked around and said, you know what, she wanted to go back to school. So she decided to go back to school. But, as a kid, I remember her doing cake decorations of like 6-7 foot high wedding cakes. And she was, that was a bad sister, man.
That's deep.
Oh yeah, she was heavy. When she decided to go back to school, it was like, the 80s. And then she went back to, she just, went, I think went to WC3, and then the next thing you know, I'm a teenager in East Lansing, and she going away to Michigan State.
Wow.
And we, doing things up there. And up there, it was kind of like I had found some kind of, strangely enough, some kind of identity. However, it also was like 1988, 89, and 1989, the number, another summer.
Yeah.
You know, it was that, it turned into that, you know, walking down, some of the little streets that are on the campus, and, you know, you seeing all of the different, you know how college was back then. You know, you got everybody, you got your people who are your vegans and your hippies, and you got, the white pride folks, and then you got the black pride folks, and then you got the this, and you got the that, and, the gays, the straights, hey, I just want to get stoned. Who got it? You
Yeah.
got all of that. So it ended up that I just, kind of was into the whole funk and rock and roll scene up there, being a musician from here.
So I definitely have to uplift, when we're thinking late 80s Michigan State.
Yes,
first, shout out to Bad Moon Rising. I know Rising.
That's right.
That's one of the things culturally, but also that's around the time when Farrakhan is brought from giving a speech there at Michigan State, which actually sparks a lot of his appearances on Donahue, amongst other things.
Yeah.
So it's a different culture. What is your mom going to school for, and what impact did seeing your mother go to school at that age have
man,
on you?
it was interesting, man, because I was still in high school. And, 16, 17, 18, right? I got kicked out of high school from up there. Me seeing my mother going to get her education, she was going for, English literature and getting her bachelor's and her master's in that, and then ended up getting a second master's in I think education from, where was it? I think Wayne State, and she was teaching at Wayne State, and then she ended up, when she left, she was a doctor of education.
Wow.
Upon her departure.
Rest in peace.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. The best. Very grateful. Thank you. She was going to school for, the written word was her thing.
And she embraces this journey through doctorate. And that's after having some babies of her own, and really could have chosen a path completely different, but she saw school as one of those gates.
Yeah, at a later age. So it was just really interesting.
Yeah.
The thing I think that was primarily, she wanted more. And then when she saw me go through some of them things up there, her idea changed. So then she started to become, as an educator, her focus started to become, Black male writers.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And, because I was bringing home books like, excuse me, after I had quote unquote discovered myself, I'm bringing home books like Soul on Ice, Eldridge Cleaver, and Nathan McCall Makes Me Want to Holler, and and having gone through some of those things, meaning racial profiling, did a little bit of some jail, had some of the court things.
Okay. What were you dealing with at a young age up in East Lansing? Just give like a story or two.
Okay, yeah, I'll just give you one simple story because it was just the only one, and after that, I ain't go back. Beret stayed on though. I was I borrowed, a friend of mine had saw me with a abscess my jaw, and him being the landlord of this building that I was staying in, he's like, yo, hey, you look bad, man. Here, take some of these. I just came from the dentist, gave me a couple Darvocet, some penicillin and stuff. It's like, man, take these, go get well. I went and got a immediate removal. And so you remember the jacket, right? My jacket that I used to wear,
Mm-hmm.
with all the funkadelic things and all of that.
Yeah.
I was a spectacle in that town. So after I went and got my tooth removed and everything, I had it in a little whatever and put it in the pill bottle. And then I just threw it in my jacket. Interestingly enough, I was hanging out in the little, I guess, like a commons area down there, MAC and MAC and what was it, Abbott area down Michigan State area. And an officer basically rolled up on me while I was talking, in this Quiznos or something like that to this, white cat I knew. And basically, but, random, just at random, pretty much, I need to see your ID, And of course, me knowing my rights, no, I ain't giving you ID. I don't need to do that. You know what I mean? And I kind of got a little bit combative with him in knowing that, but I'm outnumbered, I'm outgunned here. And then all of a sudden, up comes some unpaid seatbelt citations, but I don't drive. You know what I'm saying? So I dealt with the East Lansing Police Department, but then when they, patted me down, they found, so it became a thing of, possession of controlled substance with intent to distribute or something like that. But since it was a first offense, it was kind of like, I had to get a job, go to school, get my GED, do that whole thing. And they were I was on probation and they was going to give me tether, but I couldn't get a phone. So I had to do, you know what I mean? I had to go in for a minute, but I really couldn't hack it in there, man.
Wow.
I lost it, and then Mounds was like, how much y'all need? Because it's always about money, what you need, So having dealt with that, I mean, I realized a few things in that space. I was actually looking through some journals the other day, and I scan all my old journals, man. I try to do the self-preservation thing.
So how old are you when this happens?
I'm about 23, 24. I came after I got out of that situation. I left there and came straight back to the crib.
Wow.
I came straight back to Detroit. I don't want nothing to do with that. In fact, the last time I was up there, it had to be, I can't even remember. I might have to ask. Me and my friend Lottie went up to see Esperanza Spalding when she was first hitting. I went up there for that concert and came right back. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, I haven't been up there. I don't even know what it looked like now.
Wow. And this all happens when you're 23 or it starts? Because sometimes, the process in the system can be.
But you also have to realize at that time we were trying to free Mumia, right? And so I'm doing stuff like I'm going up and through the microfiche, when you go through the thing, I'm trying to find articles about Move. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to find articles about, what actually happened with Officer Faulkner and all that type of stuff. So I was poking the bear, and I didn't know that I was poking the bear.
How?
Wow. You know what I'm saying?
How did you discover that they kind of knew of your work organizing in community around?
Well, because as a kid at that time who I wasn't necessarily going to college. You know what I mean? My mother was a college student. She had actually moved back to Detroit, and I was up there by myself at that point because I had myself a little apartment and all that type of stuff. What at that time was grown folk shit. So coming back, you know what I mean? From, she came back to Detroit from that, but as I'm up there, I'm learning more about self. You see what I'm saying? And it was a big question to me. Why are there a bunch of white folks doing the work to free Mumia and black people are not? Why is that? Why is this happening this way? I know about the Panthers. They was around when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Well, the last of them. I was born in 72. So, I mean, we still had people educating us then. You remember.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my question. Why is it that others are doing the work for us? And then that also brought me a musical question, as I'm a musician. Why is it that white folks are playing blues and we don't want nothing to do with it? You see what I mean? Why? And I'm not saying anything evil about, anybody of a different race. I'm just saying, how is it that someone else is doing your work for you? How is it? How is that? And it started making me question myself. So why is it that somebody else knows more about me than I do?
Okay. All right.
You know what I mean? What does that mean? Why is it that, I'm just speaking about self. Why is it that I am more about these 6 strings on my guitar and, going and getting some, you know what I'm talking about, than I am about my own liberation? What is it that I know about me as a person, and first of all, as a man? Why? And then, when I went through that, I realized that there's a fear that's centered around Black excellence. There's a fear. There's always a target on that.
So now I definitely want to frame the coming back to Detroit.
Yeah.
You come back to a chocolate city. East Lansing is far from that.
Yeah.
What's happening at the time? What's the era? And then
1996.
So 96, 97.
It's somewhere around in there, man. I'm blurry.
So let's say like mid-90s. Mid-90s Detroit. How do you go about tapping into the music scene?
Well, me and my brother Gabe Gonzalez, he instantly pulled me into Enemy Squad. I had a band up in East Lansing called Sherm Stick Purpose, and we was, doing the funk thing, and as somebody who authenticated funk as a guitar player and as a producer, I worked in a studio up there, the whole bit. But, East Lansing is like a life story, man. I definitely got to really dig into some of my the journals and stuff like that to give like an acute detail. But yeah, I came back, worked with Enemy Squad, the band, that whole thing. It was amazing. We toured, we did shows. And it was like, man, 3 guitar players, 2 bass players, 2 frontmen, a DJ. It was crazy.
And what I remember of Enemy Squad, because I'm so young and I've only experienced it a couple of times at that time.
Yeah, it was wild.
And this is like that fusion of a lot of what makes Detroit also different. It's like the what's the genre, what's the feel, where's it going? It's definitely live, and for sure the funk of it all.
Because we were all fans of the whole P-Funk thing, and fans, and we all knew George Gabe had played with P-Funk.
Who were the players? Who were the players when you joined, and what's the arc that the players that stand out?
The Black Man, of course, Dan the Black Man. Him and Benjamin Beverly were the frontmen. Ben was my man. He actually worked for a record company at that time. Let me see, who do we have on bass? That was Mike McLeod on bass, and then another cat named Dwight, and sometimes Joe Hayden was there on bass. We had Lynn Swan on decks doing the scratching and things. Kerry Clark, it was, and Kerry Clark played guitar and bass and sang and did this and that. So And it was me and, of course, my brother Dumini DePorres.
Yeah.
You know, that's my man's. And, you know, I mean, it was just, and then, of course, Ron Priest, you know, so we had a thing that was just, it obliterated anything that came in its path because, like, it was like everything.
And when you talk about the everything and the essence of that show, and you're uplifting,
Man,
very creative minds into the artistry of music,
it's crazy.
Getting it captured, studio experiences.
Ooh-wee.
How did that?
United, we did. I think we did some sessions at United, United Sound,
Mhm.
and then also we, you know, and that was even back in the day. You know what I mean? Like for a while, and you know, did sessions putting that album United State of a Mind together. And interestingly enough, you know, because you know my big brother, God rest him, Amp Fiddler,
Rest in peace.
yes sir. And you know, he sometimes would tour with us, and like we all opened up for the time when it was Jesse-less. It was Jesse-less and Jelly Bean-less.
Yeah.
We opened up for them at Tramps. And you know, it was missing some of them elements, but we kind of got in there. You know what I mean? I mean, because we opened up for them, but we killed it. We literally obliterated Tramps that day in New York. And another date on the tour, we were opening for Bernie Worrell. And I think that was at Don Hills or someplace. I'm trying to just go back in my memory and be accurate about things, brother.
And you are taken across the world with the funk.
Yeah.
Definitely the nation.
Yeah.
What?
So, I mean, and one of the things like that happened, for instance, was that me, Joe Hayden, Amp Fiddler, and Bernie Worrell was sitting down, and I was trying to learn about music theory. You know what I mean? In the 90s. You know, I just want to know more. I'm at that stage in my life as to where I just want to learn something. I'm not going to college. I'm out here on the road. I'm not, you know what I mean? And that's one of the things that Bernie suggested to me. You know, the late great Bernie Worrell, he suggested, man, go learn. You know, if you want to know something, go look. Like, this ain't all there is. There's more to life than, you know.
And that's what I was gonna ask you now, because knowing more of your story, your journey puts you as like, so when you in a band, the guys or women that are like at their top game, we call them gunners. It's like,
okay,
yo, they're a gunner. Like, yeah, you ain't got to worry about nothing. And that's a path where you can play your whole life. Then creatively, you can get into the art of other things, whether that be management, whether that be mixing and mastering sounds in the studio. Like, the industry can open up other doors.
True. And
how did you choose the path to stay in that path of because getting in studio?
Yeah, well, getting in studios, that was one thing. Then, of course, orchestrating.
Yeah.
With live, you know, orchestras and stuff like that. And, you know, all of that started because, you know, I want more out of everything.
Because I really want to frame this the right way.
Yeah.
As you answer this, because the path you were on, and you know them.
Yeah.
You could easily be touring the world just with an axe.
Yeah.
And name the genre of music.
Yeah.
And name
I could be
there.
I could be there. And I mean, you know, I'm really grateful for those experiences that I had with them brothers. You know what I mean? Like I had some amazing experiences on the road. However, one of the things that I learned is that there's more to life than the funk. Funk changes, you know, rock changes. You know, the mothership is in the Smithsonian, brother. You know, Uncle George is, he's in his 80s, still on stage, but
Yeah.
he's a legend. You know what I mean? A living legend. And the work that I started to get into later on after, I kind of got back in, and from out of that, I dipped into the whole house music thing, made a lot of records doing that. Of course, worked with Brother Moody, man.
Shout out Moody, man.
Yes, sir. That's my man's. He, put out my first actual album, Solid, A Moment in the Mind of Piranhahead, and it was pretty cool. I did a lot of records with Divinity. You know what I mean? Me and her did, yes. Yeah, we did a lot of records together, and that was on Minx's label, Women on Wax. So, I was trying to take all these different worlds and put them together, but I was trying to do it in a different way. I wanted to take what people see as Four on the Floor, boom, 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 and make it a soundscape. I wanted horns, strings, more guitars, big ass vocal harmonies. Let's take it to that level so that somebody can live in this song. I mean, when I listen to a Stevie Wonder record, brother, I live in it. You know what I mean? When I was listening to that Donny Hathaway record the other day, I'm living in that record.
And more than just living in it,
Yeah.
you also know a lot of the players from these records.
Well, yeah. I mean, because I came up reading credits. You know what I mean? Like, I freaked out when I first met Paul Reiser, man. I freaked out because I'm a fan of his, and I saw his name. You know what I mean? When I was just like, yeah. So, and I'm grateful that God will have it that I'm his copyist. And you know what I mean? That's legendary right there, man. I love that, man.
So you speak of making the Four on the Floor. I love that you frame it from that.
I have to, because I mean that's what initially it is. I mean it's dance music is one of those things. It's constant. It's driving. It's not gonna give you. It's not letting up on nothing. But that beat is always there. You know what I mean? But I just didn't want just that beat. You got to give me something else.
Okay, and and in this journey, these relationships, as you're traveling, you're meeting people, and still connecting to inspirations. Where does your vision for creating this sound that you see as that soundscape? How do you add to it? How do you continue to craft?
Listening. Listening. Whenever I do anything, I ask God for it. I'm writing music, you guide my hand. I mean, I'm asking the ancestors for it. The other day I was playing with my mini moog, right? And I'm sitting up there, I'm messed with something, I'm touching this filter, and I'm just trying to find something. And I remember when Amp said, man, slow down. Slow down, bro. You trying to get to whatever, man, come on, slow down, man. Right? And then I hit the thing and it said, wah, 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 wah. And I'm like, that's the, and I knew it was him talking to me. See what I'm saying? Energy, vibrations, all of that stuff, frequency, all those things are very real. You know what I mean? It ain't just that. God works through all these things. So whenever I'm doing anything, I'm asking for its guidance so that I'm able to be the vessel.
So preparing for a session.
Depends on which role I'm playing.
Let's say that you are the engineer.
If I'm the engineer, depends on what kind of session it is.
Let's say live band in the style of a funk, reggae.
Okay.
Let's say Mollywop.
Oh, yeah. First of all, try to make sure that the studio is clean.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
But, where we were at Rust Belt, one of the things that I would do is basically a lot of mic selection, selecting the mics, trying to, understanding who the musicians are. You know, so I know how Aisha hits. Aisha is no joke as a drummer. You know, I mean, I know how I form a sound. You know, I mean, and that is like the solid thing. So I was, you know, just making sure that the mics that I was using were, you know, good for what it was that I was doing. And sometimes I would use like, you know, my favorite mic there was old EKG D12 I think. And I used to use that, you know, on the kick drum. I did a lot of 421s on the toms and, you know, 57s on the snare. And, excuse me, I used, I stole a trick off the great Jim Vitti, who used to be the chief engineer at United Sound and used a lavalier for the hi-hat mic. You know, little weird things like that. And, you know, making sure that the drums and bass is locked in, but, you know, using the EQs, trying to make sure that the recording that is getting to the source, be it tape, Pro Tools, or whatever, is a, you know, that's good, you know.
So now let's shift that same mind. And when you go into a mix, how are you pouring in the creativity with that same ear? Because oftentimes when we talk the same ear, and now I'm talking real technical editing.
Yeah, because you know me,
audio.
You know me more as an engineer.
Yeah, man.
You know me more as an engineer as that, and you know what I mean.
So
you know,
how do you? Because when I went to recording school, they'd often say like sometimes you got to clear your ear out, meaning that you're hearing. So oftentimes, dynamic creativity it flows.
It does,
and
you know whenever I was, you know, I mean, when I was in that space and doing that, you know, it gave me, you know, working there and at United, and you know, the disc and different places like that, you know, because that was where I really learned, was the disc back in the day, and you know, I learned that, you know, you want to make sure that that record that you're creating or that you're working on is good when you're recording it.
And it's like two styles because and it comes back into the video stuff too.
Yes, it does.
Meaning that like, you know, it's some people, you know, pre and post, meaning like meaning like if I set everything up right, then when I come back to the post and I clean it up, I'm not trying to fix something. I'm going in, not necessarily saying that this is everything that it's going to be, but I'm going in with the thought process that this is how I want things delivered. But I'm more so asking from this lens, like with my last project years ago, if Detroit were heaven, like some of the songs.
Detroit is heaven, man.
And
it's got a little hell in it though.
Yeah,
please don't get me started.
Indeed. So like creatively matching when I was working with my cousin Lumumba, I'm like, some of these songs need to match the feel in the mix. And I believe in today's style of music, oftentimes in like this MP3 area, we're like crunching and compressing and trying to make sounds so big that that sometimes we're missing the fact of a mix itself is creativity and artistry, and it can recreate and animate how you feel about the whole song itself. It's not like mixing to make the song sound like something that can, I guess it used to be, quote unquote, be on radio, as much as like, does this mix fit the feel of what this song is?
Let me say this. This is one thing I learned specifically about a lot of Detroit engineers. Let's get it done right now. Everybody, you know, a lot of cats are quick. Quick. Next. I mean, but that's also the hip hop generation in general.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When we, you know, a lot, that's in the world over.
And I'll tell you the one hip hop producer, an engineer that's not like that works with him. And that's why the songs sound the way they do.
Who that is?
Dr. Dre, that works with a lot of Detroit A lot of Detroit players.
Yeah, I don't know Dre.
Mhm.
Never met the brother, but I've heard that he is a serious listener. You know, he's gonna seriously listen, and his ears, he uses them up. You know what I mean? Like he uses his ears. A lot of people don't do that. Everybody wants to get to it right now, and that's the thing that I had to learn. That brought me to where I am as a arranger, composer, musician, engineer, producer, all of that. That record is somebody's pathway to not jumping off that ledge. That record is, I mean, come on, you know what I mean? Some records will change somebody's life, man. You know, and everything. The heart got to be there. Period, man. When you listen, and this is the thing that I was inspired every day in the studio with Mollywop, man. Brother Malik Yakini, man, come on. First of all, I was a fan because I was a fan of Onyx. You know what I mean? And I knew, I worked with Kareem Baki before and all the other cats, King Sundiata, all of them. And so me meeting and hanging out and working with and getting to know Malik Yakini, man, I was blown away. You know what I mean? And seeing the way all of them came together as a unit, I wanted to be able to capture that familyhood. So when you listen to Stand Up, you're listening at Black people having fun and loving on one another. You know what I mean? Adele would come in and basically bless everything. You know what I mean? It was a serious, you know what I mean? Like, there is no voice like Simone Winters. You know what I mean? See, Isis DeMille, I'm grateful to see her success now. You know what I mean? But I saw it, when she was dealing with her dad, Israel.
Yeah.
So, seeing all of that come together, man, it was just beautiful because I loved the songs. You know what I mean? That was there's a video, I think it might be on my YouTube, of me, us cutting, pushing at the gates.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we had so much fun them days, man. We you talking about live, man. We were cutting live, we were having a good time. And it was really interesting too when they first came to the Rust Belt, because Al Sutton and all them cats was out there in the little foyer area, and the as you walk in, they got the little lounge right there, and then they got their little. So, I'm the only Black cat who worked there, and I'm Black.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's I'm not just, I ain't gonna tap dance.
No.
So it was hilarious because they were all sitting there having fun, cracked open a couple beers, talking shit, whatever, you know what I mean? I think something was playing on their little system in the office. And Aisha come in and she's, she looks beautiful. And Ayodele comes in and he's dashiki'd out, and I'm greeting them all at the door as they coming in. I'm trying to help with whatever gear they got. And they notice that this is a group of Black people, not just African Americans, people with their minds on liberation, making sure that we are one by any means necessary. They, you know what I mean? Here I am with of course, my red, black, and green Adidas sneakers, and you see, who was Mellow Man there that day? I don't know. I can't remember who all came in on that first day.
Mm-hmm.
But it was something that these folks had never seen before, and it scared them out of their own place. It did. Like, I looked back and I was like, but wait, where did everybody go? Because I was hoping that they was gonna come in and peep
Yeah.
what I was doing. You know what I mean? Because like, oh man, yeah, man, these guys sound great. I'm thinking that's what I wanted to see, but it was a whole another thing, man.
Yeah. I could imagine, man. I could
It
imagine
was,
that.
you know,
Now, Detroit also puts you in place from writing and production, working with a lot of legends that you've connected with, building the arc yourself. Um, what do you think it is about the feel here in Detroit that inspires the music to have such a spirit where it's, as you talk about the dances moving, like that Detroit feel, like in song and production, it like has a push. It has like a motivation. It feels like something.
I don't know what it is that makes this sound here. I can't. I mean, I wish that I could say that it was. You know, I'm not about to exploit this and say, you know, yeah, it's the water, because then next thing you know, they're gonna create a pipeline to somewhere else and funnel out our water so that somebody else can sound like Jay Dilla. I'm not about to make that happen.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I don't know what it is. You know, us growing up here, it give you a something else. You know what I mean? Um, I don't. That's a heavy question, because I don't know what that is. I think it's something elusive. You know what I mean? Because we special, man. We got it's a certain thing on us. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, because even like rest in peace, Amp.
Yeah, he was the one.
Like, um, Amp's project, it's like the creativity of that, but then it's like what Thornetta does,
Oh man, Thornetta grew up.
Jam.
She was right behind me on set. And she was on Harding.
Hmm.
I'm on St. Clair. We Alley right there.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Me and Thornetta, that's my sister. Somebody mess with her, they going in the box, bro.
Well, I think Jam will be to him
Hey
fast.
man, listen here. That's my man. I love that man.
Yeah.
Period.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's teamwork make the dream work. Whoever it is, boy, I'm trying to tell you, that's my sister. I love her.
So, and it all like it feels so different.
It does.
So, with
It
that,
does.
creatively right now, where are you at? What's exciting you about music?
Well, you know, um, after and doing a lot of the work that I've done lately as an arranger, um, I of course have been excited to hear what what projects become after we work with them. I did a project with the drummer, the Pocket Queen. She came out here and we did the work. You know what I mean? I worked with string players and everything, and did an arrangement for a couple tunes of hers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was it was a feel here. Definitely.
Explain your approach to arranging and what are you doing?
Um, composing string parts and doing string arrangements over
Over what the artist is bringing.
over
So
what the artist is bringing me. Yes.
how do you like if I'm the vocalist or
The songwriter
or the writer,
producer, yeah.
how and then I come to you with the vision. What's your approach? I mean, are you sitting down and we're talking? Like, what's that
Of
exchange?
course,
Break the
there's that
process down.
exchange. There's the exchange of you just know that you want it to be fuller, and I'm adding sweetening to it. You know what I mean? And string lines here and there or whatnot. But being under the tutelage of the great Paul Reiser,
Mm.
it's more than just a violin part. It's actual, violins, violas, cellos, harp, sometimes English horn, flute, things of that nature. I'm an orchestrator. I love classical music too. You know what I mean? One of those things that inspired me to do that was I Love the Lord, He Heard My Cry, Donny Hathaway, first song that you hear on Extensions of a Man. And when I found out that he wrote that, and I looked at the cover and I'm seeing, music notes, and I was wow, and every song that we had coming up, there was strings. And that was the thing, like when I used to do production, like beat production, I used to always try to emulate that with a keyboard, but just didn't have that thing. And when I spoke earlier, the conversation that I had with Bernie Worrell, he understood everything about that. Amp understood everything about that. Those cats understood the whole thing, like the whole enchilada. But Paul Reiser, every song you listen to on Motown, that's all him.
So, two things before I get into definitely a Paul Reiser story from
you.
Yeah.
We gotta get him up here.
I would love to. The first question I have is strings in a song. What does that do to your emotions, and what does that trigger, you think, in the average person's ear or heart and mind emotionally?
What it does to my emotions as far as the song goes is it allows the song to express itself. You know what I mean? It allows the song to cry a little bit, or to laugh, or to do whatever it's doing. That it lifts the element. You know what I mean? It's like, can you imagine hearing "Oh My Love" without da-dee-dee-da-dee-da? Could you imagine that? You couldn't imagine "Never Too Much" without da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You could imagine that. Could you imagine "Don't Stop Till You Get Enough" with dum 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 without the da-da-da-da-da-da-da? Could you imagine it without that? So it takes it somewhere else. It takes it somewhere that it won't naturally go. I mean, without what I mean, certain things. It's the aspect of orchestration inside of music in general. The act of that takes a song from just it being a song to it like having its own life, like it's it started growing things itself.
I tip my hat when I think of that, especially when I think of what's soul music. It's a couple of artists that make it just different, like completely.
Man, look.
And the string arrangements from what Isaac Hayes was doing.
You see?
Is just like such a classic example.
Imagine all of that. Like if you can imagine
Walk On By,
or The Look of Love.
Yeah.
The Look of Love. Without any of that.
Yeah.
Without any of the flutes, without any of the strings, without any of that.
Yeah.
Great Johnny Allen, God rest him. Another Detroiter.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was all Detroit.
I had no idea that was the connection. Because I really think of Walk On By, because it's like you got Burt Bacharach. It's like it's one of those songs that like I just don't even hear it the same. It's similar to what Hendrix did with All Along the Watchtower. It just
man.
It's like it doesn't even seem like it's in the same universe.
It's not in the same universe. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like that's a multiverse of things, man. I mean, like I was just putting a sister of mine up on Prince. She's younger, so she ain't hip. She knew a couple of things, but then she wasn't hip to who Prince was. And it blew our mind when I said, if you're gonna start anywhere, start at the beginning, and I put on the first song For You,
Mm.
you know, where he's doing all the harmonies, and her eyes was like, what the?
Yeah.
It's all him, like the, you know what I mean? And inside of all these frequencies, man, you know, inside of all of these things, there's a spiritual thing, man. There's a spirit in it. You know what I mean? All these things are like this. It's super spiritual. All of these experiences are
Deep.
you know. I just, yeah, you know, it is like, you know what I mean. A lot of the work that I've done has always been a spiritual experience.
So Paul Reiser,
Yes, sir.
you spoke about meeting him. When do you begin working together?
Man, I used to call Paul Reiser every day. And literally, damn near beg him to train me. Like, you know, just because I I knew, you know, I was going to Wayne State trying to, you know, study a little bit of music. And, you know, this is around like late 90s, like 98. I had met him when I came back, and me and um, Lathan was working together. Lathan Grady, you know, brother did freak it. Because Lathan's brother, Romeo, was in my band up in East Lansing.
Mm-hmm.
So one time me, Lathan, and somebody else, we went to a studio, and, you know, I think we were going there to get something like a runoff or something, or something was happening. And I remember cat in a baseball cap, you know, not elderly, but you know what I mean, seasoned. Brother walked in, and he was writing music on a clipboard with a, you know what I mean? I'm like, man, writing music, like he actually doing it real. He came in and he, you know, hey gentlemen, how you doing? So and so and so. And went to the office. Hey, can I borrow your fax machine? I need to make some copies or something. And he was writing on the fly as musicians were coming in. Well, some of them was already in there, but he was writing music right then for whatever it was. I, you know, remember that. And then another session I saw him in session somewhere else, and I, you know, heard them, what they were doing. It was just like, whoa. You know, and knowing all of his work at that time, and I, you know, found out that's Paul Reiser, like you know what I mean? Because, you know, Carl Robinson was I think it was at Vanguard.
Okay.
Vanguard, Mike Powell's spot.
Yep.
And it was crazy because I love Mike Powell too, man. That's another one who really
Legend.
I love Mike Powell. You know, I saw these cats, you know, doing what they're doing. And then when I did get a chance to sit down and, you know, I got Paul's number and called him, like, you know, man, I love your arrangement work. He asked me, you know, what's like the thing that really pops out? You're like, what's one? Is there any of my arrangements of yours that, like, you know, arrangements of mine that's your favorites? I said, love Bougie Bougie by Ashford and Simpson. You know, instrumental piece, but, you know, the strings. He's like, okay, transcribe it for me. I said, and I ended up doing it, and it was horrible.
Hilarious.
It was horrible. You know, but the thing is he saw my efforts, and then he took me up under his wing, and like we didn't even talk about music, man. We talk about life stuff. You know, things like, man, when I think it had to be over about 10 years ago. Called me about 4:00 in the morning and says, you know, I know you sleep. Can you get up? Yeah, what you need. Yeah, just be ready in about 45 minutes. And what's your address? Let me write down your address. I'll give him my address. He shows up at 5 o'clock in the morning to my door, and then we go to a men's church meeting. And we sitting there, and and they I think it was Life Changers or something like that. One of those things that's over there, And I took real notice of that. Like, man, this cat he's about trying to make sure that my spirit is right. You know what I mean? Or just doing that, praying with, each other, or doing that type of thing. Because, without that base, ain't nothing happening.
That's deep.
Oh, yeah.
Paul Reiser, I mean, so many Motown hits. I've never had the pleasure of meeting him.
Oh my God, beautiful people, man. Like we just went to Classical Roots at the thing. I mean, we always, like, every now and again he'll call me and my lady Monique. Hey, come on, let's go.
Cool.
Where we go we going to the symphony. I got some tickets for y'all at the door. You know what I mean? And like, we'll watch the orchestra do their thing and comment with each other on the music. And
that's deep.
He'll call me in a split second and be like, "Hey man, turn on 90.9 right now. It's a piece going on right now." That's, you know what I mean? That type of thing. It's beautiful.
That's deep. I like I say, I've heard some stories about how particular he is about sound through
Crazy.
Rest in peace, Clay McMurray.
Yeah.
Because when I was rapping with the Basics Reggae Band, and I'm actually happy to, I met Norman through Clay before he passed. And,
Mr. Whitfield.
Yeah, man.
That was a heavy cat.
Yeah, man. And they would tell some interesting Motown stories.
Brother, Motown is very interesting. One of the people that Paul Reiser introduced me to, some years back, either pre-pandemic or or during the pandemic, was Benjamin Wright, who is an arranger extraordinaire, man. The cat is amazing. Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, Rock With You, the intro to The Love Below, all the Justin Timberlake stuff. Tavares. He was music director for the Temps. Gladys Knight, Aretha Franklin, Patti LaBelle.
Yeah.
All of these, like, super MD, super arranger cat, Mary Mary in the Morning, if you hear that. Or, okay, DJ Quick, Well. He did all of those arrangements. Heavy dude. Out in LA. And, he's one of the funniest cats you ever really would want to kick it with. But after Uncle Paul and him, called me on a three-way to talk about something and all of that, I just found it interesting. Me and Benjamin Wright, we really clicked, because that cat, he's a no-nonsense type of dude. And one of the things that he prides himself on, and this is one of the things that I truly love about him, is he black to the bone, man. He don't want he insists on black players being in his orchestra, period. He insists on it.
Yeah.
Because, and I I had asked him, I said, why is, because I'm from Detroit and here it's Motown. There's no such thing as color. I mean, music is music, And he hit me hard. And I said, why is it that you insist on black players? Why is it that must be a thing? He said, because I have a responsibility to make sure that black people are eating. And I had to really think about that. You employ black people.
Yeah.
Through Detroit is different.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and and one of the things that I definitely can uplift, that I've done, and my attorney Stephanie speaks to it too. It's not the largest stage, but I also have paid talent to perform.
Yeah.
You know, and hit stages.
Yeah.
In the community.
You did?
With community events.
Hey, wait, collard green cook-off, man. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Hey, you're telling our stories. You are making sure that
Thank you.
hey man, listen, salute, brother, for real. I
Thank
mean,
you.
I'm telling you, you know, that's the thing that I don't.
I already know, because we uplifting today on 313 Day.
It's okay, but we gonna tell the truth too.
Yep.
There's a lot of us here who don't.
Yes.
There's a lot. The situation that's going on in Washington right now, we helped put it there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a lot of us here in the city, that's.
I would say the thought process, like they say, it's a lot of crabs in the barrel mentality.
It is.
And my thought process is, let's create more stages and platforms.
Yeah, we do.
My that's where like we connect as we get to a close of this. And, I tip my hat to you, because I just know how talented you are, and you know, I know how your ear is with sound, just because how much I like sound. And you probably don't even remember the first time I met you. It was through Nadir.
Wow.
And you were coming back when we were running the 40. And we were doing one of those rent parties like we usually do. And they were playing after, because we used to do these rent parties, especially like after the Detroit Music Awards.
Man, look.
And I had definitely like a very, as they say, it's like introductory mixing board. And I was like, I don't know necessarily if we could get some better sound. You came over, you were like, hold on, let me get the headphones. And then it was like, you started crafting.
Word.
And I was like, yo.
Yeah, you just brought that back to me.
I was like, yo. And ever since then, I was like, okay, I got to get out the way, because, you know, we're not looking at feedback in. We're not looking at anything. I'm like, this guy can craft with little. And that's a testament to an ability of a person's ear and knowing what's going on, especially on the fly. Furthermore, if you empower a person with more tools, they'll only be better.
Right.
But some of the greatest engineers are people that know how to maximize.
Do it with nothing. See, the thing is that, you know, I mean, that's me and all my buddies when we was coming up. You gotta, okay, let me take you back. It's 1983, 84.
Yeah.
You know, my buddy Devon is on Garland. Jeremy's on Harding. He had a cat named Carl Brodus who lived, I can't remember. I think he was over there off of Chalmers somewhere, a little further out. But, you know, we had ourselves a little crew. I know you know the great Rondell, who went by BMX back then.
Okay, you know, I didn't know that.
A cat named John. You know, and we all were into music.
Yeah.
Completely. I played guitar. And, you know, somebody else was into the, you know, but we was making records on cassette decks. You know what I'm saying? We was making records doing that. You know what I mean? Like it would be a while before we would run into an amp fiddler, but we would, you know, we had a manager at the time. Her name was Cynthia Gertie, and she was with Bootsy's singing group called God Mama. And her and Tony Walker from God Mama, they were like, y'all ain't never seen a real studio before. We're going to take you to a real studio. And took us over to United Sound.
Wow.
And that's where I met Don Davis. It's like 1984. And when I saw him, I was like, that's
Don Davis.
That's Don Davis. And I didn't recognize him from the music thing. I remember looking in Black Enterprise magazine, you know, because Pops and, you know, Mama, you going to read something.
Yeah.
You going to learn something around here. You ain't going to be just sitting up, you know. But I saw him in Black Enterprise magazine. And I was like, wow, this cat owns a bank.
Yeah.
You own a bank. You could do whatever you want to do because black money is black power. And I met this cat and wait a minute. And the music got this studio, and this is United Sound. Then I put 2 and 2 together, and that's where Funkadelic and Parliament have been recording their stuff and all this. So I have really gotten it's like, whoa. You know, like that's tripped out.
Yeah. And one of the writers of some of my favorite songs and arrangers and producers, the Davis family, right from this neighborhood, and when they got up south.
Oh yeah.
As well. And we gotta I love that. We gonna close out. You know we gonna do a part 2. I want you to uplift how do people get in contact with you?
Oh, all over Instagram, man. Piranhahead, PIRAHNAHEAD_313.
All right, and I do gotta ask this. How did you get the name Piranhahead? I don't even know how.
Me, Gabe, and the black man. And I think I had a friend of mine with me, some chick from up in Lansing, Erica, I think her name was. And we were all in Gabe's grandmama's basement. God rest Miss LaFleur. And either Gabe or the black man or one of them. I know it was the black man. He definitely said it, but I think Gabe said he's the one who said something first or whatever. But it was hot boxing. We was hot boxing.
Yeah.
It was one of those situations, you know what I'm saying? 420 somewhere in the world at that moment.
Yeah.
But at least on their end, I was a good kid.
Uh-huh.
But that's kind of how the nickname happened. And
okay.
Definitely, yeah.
One of the most
craziest.
One of the most interesting Detroit people you'll ever meet.
Oh man, I'm great.
Black man.
Thank
you too, but I'm just saying the black man is.
Yeah.
You don't know. Hey.
He put Kid Rock on the map. See, that's what I'm saying.
I know.
See, that's let me just. I have to say this. We always give away too much of Black Detroit, and we don't hold it in high regard as we should.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that is the reason why Detroit don't belong to us no more.
Yeah. So with that, let's go classic questions. Very first car, year, make, and model, year you got it.
Never. Still ain't got it.
Okay. All right.
So I ain't making enough to pay off all that insurance and upkeep, man. Come on now.
Yeah, insurance is about $750 a month. So now next question. You are the DJ at the end of the fireworks. You get to play 2 songs. What songs you playing?
Ooh. That's a hard one. At the end of the fireworks?
Yep.
I think it would probably be definitely Knee Deep.
Okay, I'm with that.
Knee Deep is totally one of them.
I'm with that.
The other one would probably be Party Up by Prince.
I'm with that. I'm with you. We rocking and partying.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
We got some Felipe vocals in effect.
Yeah.
So you always,
it would probably be Party Up by Prince or something.
There we
like
go.
That, you know what I mean?
All right. I'm with both. Last question. You could rename Woodward after one Detroiter. Who would it be and why?
I don't even think I would rename Woodward. I don't think I could do that. And if I named it after one Detroiter, who would that Detroiter be? I mean, we need to have a Coleman Young Street, so that would probably be it. But at the same time, I you know what I mean? Can bring old Detroit back again? You know what I'm saying? Like it's. I don't feel comfortable walking down Woodward nowadays sometimes.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Deep. It doesn't feel like my Detroit anymore.
That's deep.
You know what I'm saying? So like if I could rename it, I just would probably name it Woodward, but let me put whatever was there already back again. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that I don't like all the new stuff and all this type of stuff, but don't treat me like I'm a stranger in my city, nigga. Don't do it.
Detroit is different. Detroit